Have you ever felt flat? Not sad, not burned out, just nothing landing the way it should. For a long time, I thought my life was the problem. A different city, a new project, better habits. I kept adjusting those things and nothing shifted. The gym still felt hard. Work I used to care about stopped doing anything for me. I'd open a project I cared about and feel nothing, like someone had turned the color down on everything without warning. Nothing I changed fixed it, which made me think the problem was bigger than I could manage, or that I was someone who had lost interest in his own life, and that was that. It took me a long time to figure out what was happening. It wasn't motivation, wasn't discipline, wasn't my circumstances. It was my dopamine system. Not in the pop psychology way it gets thrown around online, something specific, mechanical, and fixable. Your brain releases dopamine when you're in pursuit of something, when a reward is ahead of you and you're moving toward it. It's less the pleasure chemical and more the drive chemical. It's what makes you feel like going after something instead of lying there. When it's working, normal things feel worth doing. Work is interesting, training feels productive, a walk outside does something. Your goals feel real, not like things on a list you decided to want. When it's not working, you get the opposite. Everything costs more effort than it should. Things you used to enjoy stop registering. You still want things, but the wanting is thin and unconvincing, like reading from a list of what you should care about rather than caring. That's not a personality thing. That's a brain in a specific state with a specific cause. There's a specific reason your mornings feel heavy, and a very simple protocol to fix it. But first, you have to understand why the dial is broken. Think of your dopamine system like a dial sitting in the middle at rest. At that baseline, normal things move the needle in ways that feel real. A good conversation gives you a small lift. Finishing a piece of work gives you a lift. Small things that feel like small, good things. Now imagine spending all day spiking that dial to the top, scrolling through content built to be as stimulating as possible. Constant notifications, quick videos, cheap rewards every few minutes, enough to keep you hooked without ever requiring you to do anything. Your brain adapts. It turns the sensitivity down to compensate. The dial's neutral position shifts lower. A good conversation doesn't move it enough to register. Finishing work doesn't either. A walk is a walk. The things that used to feel like something now feel like nothing. Not because they changed, but because your brain recalibrated what normal is. And the natural response when normal feels like nothing, chase a spike, which drops the baseline further, which makes normal feel even flatter, which makes you chase a bigger spike. That's the loop I was in. I didn't see it from inside because something was always available to grab. I'd feel flat, reach for something stimulating, feel better for 10 minutes, feel flat again, repeat, without ever noticing that the thing I kept reaching for was what was making me feel the way I was trying to escape. A crashed baseline has a specific texture in daily life. You wake up and the morning already feels heavy before it started. Your focus is worse than it used to be. You start things and don't finish them, not out of laziness, but the pull toward the goal isn't there anymore. Goals you once wrote down that felt exciting now feel hollow. Things that used to be enjoyable stop doing much. You're not depressed, you're flat. That's its own kind of miserable, because there's no clear villain. It feels like a you problem, like you've lost something internal and can't figure out what. That was me, and flatness doesn't announce its cause. Here's the part that annoyed me when I understood it. The fix sounds offensive in its simplicity when you say it out loud. Stop giving your brain cheap stimulation. Give your baseline time to recover. Rebuild your reward system through effort instead of easy hits. That's it. Here's what nobody mentions. Your brain will fight this. A brain adapted to constant stimulation doesn't tolerate less stimulation without resistance. It pushes back. The first few days you remove the cheap spikes, things feel worse, not better. More restless, more boring. Your brain starts pushing you toward anything that'll give it the hit it learned to expect. I went through about a week of this, and it was rough. I kept reaching for my phone, putting it down, wanting to pick it back up 10 seconds later. Not because anything was wrong, my brain was looking for what it learned to expect. Restlessness I couldn't explain. Terrible without any clear reason. That week is the part nobody talks about, and it's where most people give up, go back to what they were doing, and decide this is who they are now. That discomfort is not evidence you're broken. It's evidence something is changing. So here's what works. two things together, removing cheap dopamine and replacing it with earned dopamine. Cheap dopamine is anything your brain gets rewarded for without doing something real. Scrolling, passive consumption for hours, checking whether something new arrived. The test I used was simple. Did I earn this or did I consume it? Earned dopamine is slower, more sustained, and over time it lets your brain get sensitive again instead of crashing it. You get it from real effort, training, finishing something that pushed back, sitting in boredom long enough to push through into actual focus, doing something hard before a screen gets to your brain first. Which brings me to the morning. For years, I woke up and checked my phone within the first few minutes to see what was there, I told myself. What I was doing was spiking my dopamine before I'd gotten out of bed. My baseline was already trying to recover before I'd had coffee, which meant everything that followed, the deep work, the training, all of it felt harder and more effortful than it needed to be. I thought I was a slow starter, someone who needed time to warm up, but that wasn't it. I was taking the freshest part of my brain, the window right after waking when your mind is actually sharp, and immediately feeding it a phone. And once your reward system sees all that stimulation first thing, everything that comes after it feels boring by comparison. Sunlight before screens, moving before opening a device, real work before anything built to be addictive. It sounds rigid written out. In practice, after about 2 weeks, I was sitting down to work and getting into it instead of grinding through it. Real absorption, the kind I hadn't felt in a long time. That was the first sign the dial was moving back. I want to be honest about one thing before I finish. The reset doesn't feel like a reset while it's happening. Your baseline doesn't announce its recovery. You don't wake up one morning feeling better and know it worked. You feel the absence of what you took away. For a brain used to constant stimulation, less stimulation doesn't feel like freedom at first. It feels like deprivation. I almost quit twice. First time because 2 weeks had passed and nothing felt different. Second time because I convinced myself the problem was something deeper, and this was too simple to fix it. I was wrong both times. And I can't say something here that gets you through that part without discomfort. That part is uncomfortable. You have to decide whether where you are now is worse. For me, it was. Here's what the other side looks like. I'll keep it short. One morning, I made coffee and sat near the window for about 10 minutes drinking it, and that felt like something. That's the whole story. A cup of coffee by a window felt like a real good thing, which sounds absurd if your brain is working, but if you've been in that flatness where nothing registers, you know what I mean. Normal things started feeling like normal good things again. Work felt like a problem worth solving. The gym stopped feeling like obligation. You don't need a different life. You don't need different circumstances or a total rebuild. You need your brain back at something close to the baseline it was built to run at. And that means getting out of its way.